Goeiedag, les in toveren. Soms is het een monoloog, maar heel vaak wandelen ook mensen binnen in de studio of in mijn leven die iets te vertellen hebben. Iets te vertellen hebben over het andere, het wonderlijke, het magische. Die iets te vertellen hebben over een levenshouding. Vandaag is dat Chris Markert. Hij is schrijver. Hij is al eens eerder in de studio geweest. En, hij spreekt Engels. En hij heeft een aantal boeken geschreven. Eén daarvan is bij Ank Hermens, een Nederlandse uitgeverij, vertaald over de Dan Tien. Dat is een energieleer, een Chinese energieleer. Maar vandaag gaan we praten over Thailand en over de kunst van het zonnige leven. Laten we het maar even zo noemen. Chris is 3 maanden in Thailand geweest. Daar laten we beelden van zien. En hij heeft daar een boek geschreven over de manier waarop die mensen daar leven. Niet omdat ze nou in Thailand leven, maar de zonnigheid van het bestaan. Een andere levensvisie. Een levensvisie die we soms afdoen als primitief, als simpel. Maar die in zichzelf, en daar zien we hele mooie beelden van, tot een heel gelukkig leven kan leiden. Een andere manier dan het Westen. Niet een nieuwe economie met beurskoersen en opgewondenheid, maar een hele oude economie waar eigenlijk van economie geen sprake is, behalve de vissen in de zee en de vruchten aan de boom en de zon aan de lucht. Chris, welcome. We're going to talk about your stay in Thailand. How long did you stay and where did you stay?
I stayed 3 months and it was on a tropical island on the southwest coast of Thailand called Kosamui. This is quite a tourist destination and many people go there and stay in deluxe hotels and have a package holiday, but there are also some very nice corners where you can live close to nature and close to the native life and enjoy nature.
Yeah. But the people that stay there, like the Western people, they look a little bit like hippies. They have given up the material world and stay there and eat the local food and little huts.
Yes. As I say, there are 2 worlds on this particular island. One is the package tourist world and the other one is a more hippie, relaxed type of world. And that's where I like to stay and write a book now and then. I've been there to this island for 7 winters, and it's a nice combination of nature and civilization.
Yeah. It's also a nice way to spend your life. You're now 73?
Yeah.
So, you come to Amsterdam in the summer and you go to warm places. Yeah, that's a good way. Is it expensive to live there?
Again, you can spend, if you want to, you can spend $500 a day in a deluxe apartment, certain parts of the island. You can also pay $5 a day, a night for a hut.
A little cabin.
Yeah. And you spend maybe $1 or $2 per meal, delicious Thai food, eat it in nice restaurants by the sea. And
so you can live there for little money.
Yes, if you want to.
Yeah. Now your book is about the art of life in a shining way, the way that the Thai people sometimes do. Now that's interesting because that's what we miss in the West.
Mm-hmm.
You go around here, people look grim. Oh, my stock options. Oh, yes. This is down, and yes, there is frustration, stress. Yeah.
It's no coincidence that Thailand is one of the very few countries that have never been invaded, colonized, or messed up by the Western or Islamic powers. The other country is Japan. And both of these countries are sometimes called the land of smiles, especially Thailand. And I've learned so much through this, through being there and just watching the people and watching how they treat the children. They have a totally different way of bringing up the children. For example, in the first year of life, the babies hardly touch the ground. There's always somebody to cuddle them and to hold them and to play with them and this and that. And they feel so loved. They grow up in this loving environment, and that shows in their attitude later in life.
Yeah. But even that attitude is exploited by the West because there's sex tourism, and we are in fact exploiting that kind attitude.
Actually, the sex tourism is only a small fraction of the culture of, let's say, prostitution in Thailand. Almost every man in Thailand, married man, has a girlfriend on the side. That's part of life. The women accept it, and maybe that is one reason why the Thai families are so cohesive. They stick together and they support each other because the men don't feel caught in a trap. They, if they get tired of the family, okay, they go away for a day and then they come back and really appreciate the family again. I don't know. That's that's.
But so you say there is a basic structure in society that is permissiveness in a certain way that leads to stability, while in some other societies permissiveness seems to lead to craziness and well.
Yeah, of course, I'm not saying that they have all the answers and that they are always happy and nobody suffers and so on. There's a lot of problems there too, and abuse of women and girls for sex and so on. I don't.
Yeah, let's not go into that. But
no.
Coming back to the worldview and the magical worldview, because I think we share the feeling that some non-Western countries, or most, they live in a different world. They don't live in the world of logic. They don't live in the world of cold causality. Like there's always a cause for an effect, you know, which is one of these fundamental philosophical principles. They accept things from a different world, and for us, it sometimes feels like they live in a dream world. How do you see that?
Yes, in Thailand, for example, the people really believe that each tree has a spirit, and each rock and each mountain and the sea has a spirit, and they have to live in harmony with all these spirits and little gods and so on. And each house in Thailand has a spirit house in front of it that's about this big, and it is built like
a little temple in front of the house.
Yes, with little figures inside, and now and then they put food there for the spirits so that the spirit will protect them and the house, and everybody will be happy. And this is their reality. But
it's strange, because that is a reality that is not totally consistent with the Buddhist, the Theravada Buddhism, which is the predominant religion there. So there seems there is an official religion and there is a more animistic.
Yes. It's a kind of
mixture,
compromise. Yeah, the Thais are very good at compromising. They take a little bit of from the West and a little bit from India, and they make a nice package of it.
So it's a mixture of the Buddhism, which is in fact not a religion. It's not even, it doesn't believe in God, and then and they believe in God. Is this worldview whereby, and we see it in other nations too, where the powers of things, you say trees, are dominant in our lives? Does that lead to say less interest in the economy, less interest in politics?
In Thailand?
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, we always say, democracy doesn't really count in those countries. You know, there's always a dictator here or a king there.
Yeah, I think in their life, the family is the main thing, and outside the family, nobody can exist. The family in Thailand and countries like it is really their form of insurance. Here in the West, we are insured up to here by the government, and
there's no need to connect.
From cradle to grave, yeah. And we don't really need the family. Everybody lives separate in a little box, and the
connectedness.
Actually, our system destroys the family in a way, because people don't appreciate each other. In Thailand,
I understand it. We are no longer living in extended families. In Holland, we still see our families. In the States, you see your family at Thanksgiving. Families are spread all over the country. Your brother lives in San Francisco. Your sister lives in New York. You might see them once or twice a year, and that's very nice, and we all come together. But there is no connectedness in the sense that there's economic and social interaction. And
I guess that's inevitable. But aside from that, the Thais just cannot. There's no unemployment insurance, no health insurance, no old age insurance practically for the average Thai. So they really.
But you can look at the two ways. You can say they don't have it, so they have to stick together, or is the fact that we do have it here leads to the breakup of the family?
I think that's the case, and in countries.
Here we go with the social ideals. If the government takes care of us, yeah. So that what Marx and other people have done for us, the communism and the socialism, has led, then you say, to less connectedness with family and thereby with the world.
You can see that in Central America and Thailand, that the people are just nice to each other. It starts from day one. The little babies are loved and cuddled, not only because it's nice, they enjoy it, of course they do, but also it's their old age insurance, because these little babies will take care of the parents later.
Yeah, but let's not talk about these bare necessities, because that makes it so material. Yeah. But people like Rudolf Steiner and others they've written a lot about how to educate people, how to learn without force, without having to do homework, without having to do this rigid structure, but being together and learning. But it has never catched on. I mean, these days the main subject in education in Holland is, even for basic schools, is what are your test results? Schools are graded upon the results they produce. Yes. And the horrible thing about it is that if you have a good producing school, a school that scores high tests for their kids, then the more smart and rich parents send their kids there, and so you get like a separation. And if you by chance go to a school that is not in the top ranking, and that feels like that's what Japanese society has turned into, in a very cold producing. You have to have the good test scores. If you don't make it, and then even preschoolers go to a certain little small children's educational system where they by the age of 4 they already have to produce. Yeah. And that's not in Thailand.
No.
Not that you feel. No. What's your book about? About this?
Yeah, about the Thai mentality. Although I say it in Western terms, I say feeling good is good for you, and it's good for your health. It's good for the others. You make others happy when you feel good, and you fit in with nature. You feel closer to nature and human nature, and so on and so on.
But wouldn't we in the West call that egocentric behavior or egoistic behavior? Feel good for yourself only?
Yes. Well, you can say that God wants us to be happy because it's good for us, it's good for society. So this idea that we must punish ourselves and be tough, and
the old Protestant idea, we are sinners and we have to suffer all our life. Yeah. But Buddhism goes from the premise that suffering is inevitable, that we have to separate ourselves from the senses that make us suffer, which then seems to go against what you say, which is more integration of senses and being and nature.
Yeah, the Thais are not 100% Buddhist in that way. They are very sensuous people.
Sensuous,
yeah. They like the enjoyment of the food, and I think Thailand has probably the best food in the world,
yes,
together with China and so on.
Yeah.
And they like sex, and they like beauty, and so on.
They enjoy life.
Yes, they enjoy life.
Now you have written books about the I Ching, which is a more Chinese view. The Dan Chen, primal wisdom that comes from the Chinese. How you compare Thai wisdom, of which you have written books, with Chinese wisdom? Is there like a fundamental?
Yes, Buddhism, of course, has been very influential in Thailand and China, but the original Chinese wisdom was in the Book of Change, the
I Ching, yes, yeah.
It is kind of.
We have the symbols here, huh?
Yeah. It evolved in a farming society where people were thinking of the next harvest and where to plant the seeds and so on, and watch the weather and the seasons. And this I Ching book is actually an oracle book that tells farmers how to grow their food. But then it evolved into an instruction book for kings and for priests and so on, and for social life. So they added more and more to it.
Has it dogmatized? Has it solidified the beliefs, the cosmology of the Chinese in that sense?
Yeah, this
like we're here looking at the I Ching symbols, like something falls in this category, yes, or it falls in that category, or it's like that, and you can divide this up in even more forms. But it is boxing it in. It is framing reality into one category of the I Ching,
it's a kind of model of reality that they use with good success, more or less. And another model of reality is the yin and yang, the idea that the universe is composed of the two poles, polarity between male and female, the sun and the moon, and the thoughts and the feelings, and so on. And that also is a very useful model of how things are, at least I think, as opposed to our Western model, where there's the strong man in the sky who creates everything and doesn't really need
the paternalistic model of not all people have the same idea about a god. Like we're talking about the Japanese, they have a different.
Yeah, they don't believe in a male god, but in the sun goddess Amaterasu, which puts them.
We're talking about Shintoism here.
Yeah, Shintoism. Yeah. Puts them in a totally different world, although they may not consciously know and think about the goddess all the time, but their whole categories of thought and life and habits are kind of influenced by this goddess.
I find it strange that a few 100 million people, the West, and basically Europe, has first gone to America. Well, we first went to Africa, we went to Asia. We have kind of rubber stamped our reality onto the world. And now, in fact, if you look at the numbers, we are not a tiny, but we are a majority in the way we think about reality.
Yeah. Yes. I think that's the glory and the misery of the monotheistic religions. You have this one man, and he knows all the answers, and there's rules, and it's a kind of aggressive male mode of thinking that we have, that evolved in the desert,
by necessity also, because the desert is not an easy place to live.
Yeah, right. And the tribes that had a strong leader and a strong god, they survived, and the others were killed off or died off.
But is also that the difference with Thailand, where nature is rich? You know, there is rainy period, but it's really a very nice country to live in, easy country to live in.
That's the difference between desert nomads and rice farmers. As a rice farmer, you are in close touch with nature. You watch the weather and the seasons, and you are nice to your neighbors and so on. Whereas in the desert, you have to be always on the lookout for enemies and droughts, periods, and you have to be inventive and aggressive, and otherwise you don't make it.
You have to fix the world, while in Thailand, fiction. Now, what is the lesson from? You've been there for a couple of months. You've written a book about. Well, what is the basic lesson? How can we, if you believe that when it starts inside, it radiates in the world? How can we be more happy? What do the Thai? Eat Thai food. That's a good start.
The happiness, of course, the inner harmony is what they cultivate, and we cultivate more the outer domination.
So you say it starts with the children. That bring up the children with a looser and more loving environment. Mm-hmm. So away with the tests. I think it's horrible that we come to a society where people are graded when they're 12-year-old about and
they get into this habit of concentrating, sitting all day on a school bench and concentrating on things that bore them, that they find totally useless, and their eyesight is ruined at the age of 12 usually. I wrote another book about that, but anyway.
But isn't it, we're talking about repetitive strain injuries now with computers because you have a mouse arm or something like that. But in fact, we all have repetitive strain injury from sitting in school benches. And I remember when I was young, I had to sit like that, you know. I have to go to the toilet, stuff like that. And there was a rigid structure. And it was by best intentions. My parents were absolutely, after the war, they thought that the country and the world had to be rebuilt and that we had to work hard and, use your talents. But there was rigidity. And that repetitive strain injury in the mind is still here. And one of the things is to relax. It's pretty hard for my generation because there's always this feeling, man, we have to do something. Don't throw away food because in the war... Yes, I wasn't born in the war, but my parents came with that attitude. Eat your food because, and it's been told 1,000 times, and then you start believing it. So I often go to restaurants and I eat this whole, and I say, I should finish which is not good for me. So,
well, in Thailand, the most men aged at the age of 15 or so, they stay in a monastery for 3 months, for a few months, 3 months usually, and learn to meditate and live like monks. They have this orange robe, and in the morning they get up at 4 or 5, and then they meditate, and then they go to the village and with their begging bowls and get some rice.
Is it something that happens at a specific age after the families are kind of... when the kids...
after school, around that age, including the king. He also spent months in a monastery.
Every year or just once in his life?
Once in his life.
Once in his life. So it's like instead of making mandatory 65-year-old pension age, we should say 50 years, take half a year off and look for yourself.
When you're young, you mean?
No. Well, when you say that somewhere in your life, mid-age, 45 or 50, people should be allowed. We sometimes we call it sabbatical, but to have some time to look at the inside.
Like a monk, you mean?
Yeah.
Well, in Thailand, people can become monks as long as they want, and then they drop out again and marry, or maybe they wait until they're 60 until they become monks. Some become monks at age 12 and stay monks for the rest of their life. It's very fluid. But
that's what I feel. No rules, but there must be some underlying rules. Like, are you supposed to help your neighbor?
Oh yes, that's of course Buddha's one of Buddha's main principles, that you should treat everybody like your brother and your sister, or your sister. And you should also cultivate the inner harmony through meditation. That's how they do it. They learn to meditate, and on the other hand, Buddhism can be very rigid. I mean, these monks, they have to memorize 300 rules. You must not eat after 12 o'clock noon, and you must not sit on the bed, and your bed must not be soft, and you must not touch women, and you must not think of women, and you must not touch money, and all these rules. So that's a kind of regimentation that I don't care for much.
Life, because your books are about different aspects of life, but what makes you write? Chris, you're a writer. You said 50 years ago, but you started writing.
Yeah.
I mean, where does that drive come from? Why don't you go to Kosamui and just sit there and be happy?
Yeah. Well, for one thing, it would be boring to be in Kosamui for 3 months and just to swim and eat and drink and lie in the sun. But my main reason is that I sometimes have some insights, or let's say I have solved a problem that I had for years, and then suddenly I see how it all fits together, and I know that if I don't put it down in writing, I will forget it, and then it will be gone. Also,
so it's a way. Writing is a way of remembering or keeping the knowledge.
Yes. Yeah. Also, writing helps you to crystallize an idea, to really put it into shape and to make it into a workable.
But the danger is there that you become a slave to your previous writing, and the idea of the great poet is that he would be sitting on a boat on the river and he would write poems, great poems, and he would throw them away. Like every time he wrote one, because he doesn't want to be connected with what he did. Just throw them away, and And I have that feeling with sometimes with books, you tend to try to be consistent. Yeah. You wrote this 5 years ago, and now. So it limits you. There's a dialectical process between you and your book, and
That's true of all thinking and speaking, of course.
Yeah.
You put things in little boxes, and then the boxes are there, and they dominate us if we don't watch out.
Yeah, that's a good way. Yeah.
And but still, I think I've benefited enormously by putting all these thoughts in order and making them useful also for other people, getting them published. This book has been published in
Dutch,
in a dozen countries. This one in 10 countries, I think, and sold hundreds of thousands of copies. And so I assume that people are getting some benefit from them.
Yeah. Probably, and it makes for a good life for you.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, listen, we're gonna see some more of your Thai adventures there, beautiful nature, and thank your French friend who shot this for you, and thank you for being here,
That was a pleasure.
and success with the new book, and that you may write many more about being with yourself and inner harmony. Chris, thank you.
If them, or we could pretend to give them the money and get the money back. Watch out.
This is right. You can smell them when they are ripe. And when they have leaves up here, when they come out easily, that means they are ripe.
Yes, we are the main customers here. Nearly every day. Yes, just nose now. 2 chilies, some garlic. Yeah, 2 chilies. I just ordered papaya salad, and in the Thai language to say the slang it's poke salad, but everybody's laugh because poke me maybe laugh or something like that. And they put chili inside and garlic and honey and just a little bit shrimps and green papaya and lemon, and that's about the more thing what they put inside. It's really good to eat. They like it. We come nearly every day here to buy this salad.
โอ้นี่ไงเห็นภาพเลยนะมาดูภาพดิออกทีวีเลยกันนี่เป็นไงแม่ค้า
ราคาเป็นนกที่ห่างเพราะแม่นห่างของเอาลงโทษเด้อ
ขอบคุณครับ Oh, new one.
Thailand Yes เป็นมา